What's up everybody? Today I'm going to be doing a brief tutorial on how to increase the articulation out of your McFarlane action figures. Right here I have the Arkham Asylum Batman. These figures don't come with a straight thigh cut, and I know some people have been giving them a straight thigh cut, but I'm going to show you another way to get more thigh rotation without doing an actual thigh cut. If you see the figure right now, it does have very minor thigh rotation, but there is a way to keep the sculpt looking exactly the same and get more articulation. Okay, first thing we need to do is boil up a cup of water and dunk our figure in there so that we can pop those legs off and start the modification. So I'm going to throw him in there, and it shouldn't take too long, maybe about 30 seconds or so before we need to pull him out and pop those legs off, and then I'm going to show you exactly what part you need to remove from the legs to increase the thigh articulation. Okay, now let's see if this guy is soft enough for his legs to pop out. Yep. Okay. So the important thing is you want to make sure that these pegs stay in there, because those will get in the way of the modification that we're going to try to do. So with the legs out, the part that we need to remove is this back portion of the leg. We need to cut basically part of the butt sculpt off, because what's happening is this is a peg, this is a socket here and this is a peg right here. It wants to spin right here, and so what a lot of people do is they do a straight through cut, maintaining this peg going below the cut and getting a thigh rotation out of that, but you don't actually need to. What's happening with this articulation is that it's hitting, it's hard to see, but back underneath the pelvis. Well, actually, here, let me just take this off. The great thing about McFarlane figures is they come apart really easily. But what's happening is that the leg itself is hitting this bar right here. This is what holds the diaper together, which is basically the pelvis. So this part of the sculpt is hitting here, which doesn't allow it to rotate very far. So if you trim this back, then this rotates a little bit more. So now that I have the figure taken apart, I'm going to make the cut, and I'll show you sort of a comparison between left and right to show you how much you need to cut off. So it's kind of a guess and check as far as how much you need to cut. I usually start at about the seam. This has a sculpted seam, but some of the legs do just have the mold press seam along there. That's usually a good place to start, which is basically, it's the furthest part back. So you just want to cut here, and then pop it back on and see how everything works. So you can see there how much I took off. I didn't take off that much, but sometimes that's all that you really need. And here's a comparison between the left and the right side, just to show you how much I took off. So I'm going to do the same thing on this other leg, put it all back together, and see if we can get some more thigh articulation out of this figure. So there we go, we have our two legs cut, removing a little bit of excess material. And the nice thing about this modification is that you won't miss this material at all. If we take the little diaper section, put it back in, it's completely covered by the diaper. So the only time that you would see it is if the leg kicks all the way forward, and then you would have to be looking at the figure from underneath to see the missing material. So it's pretty much unnecessary piece of sculpt that's left over. And now let's, I'm probably gonna have to heat my water back up to get everything hot enough and soft enough to put back together. But I'm going to do that, and then we'll see how much more articulation he has. Okay, I'm back with my boiling hot water. We're going to dunk the legs in. Ooh. Okay, it was a little hot. Throw the other leg in. We don't need to throw the rest of the body in, just the legs. Can start putting the diaper back on. It just slips back on pretty easily, just like that. The nice thing about these McFarlane figures is they do come apart really easy, so doing any sort of custom mods to them is extremely rewarding. I don't have to crack any torsos or anything like that. Everything just comes apart nicely. When you're putting the diaper back on, you just want to make sure that you align the little tabs in there. Okay, there he is, he's back together. So legs, nice and gummy, they should just pop right back in. Kind of hot. Okay. So now he's back together, and now you can see how much more rotation we get out of that thigh. You get almost a 90-degree, just that little bit of material that I took out. And the nice thing is you still maintain this nice sculpt. You don't have the cut lines, but you have all the increased articulation. Because the rotation in's never the problem. It was always just the out in the neutral position. And now, look at that. He can get like a nice little penguin walk. And that's it. Easy modification to this figure that you can do to all your McFarlane figures. I'm going to be doing some more tutorials on how to increase torso articulation and neck articulation. There's not much I can do about double jointed elbows in this figure. That is just the restriction of the sculpt. But yeah, there's plenty of ways to get more movement out of these figures.